Hi, I'm Jonathan from the Crankshaft Journal, and I'm finally back at work on the 1982 Suzuki GS1100G after several weeks of being sidetracked on other things. It's one of those things that happens. It's a little bit like writer's block, but not quite as bad. And still, when that happens, I find that the best thing to do is find a small part or a simple system on the bike that needs attention that's not going to take too much time to fix or restore. And this is a low-hanging fruit we're talking about. And to get started or restarted on this bike, I headed straight for the side stand. You might think of this piece as being fairly mundane, but where would you be without your side stand? This one had a lot of surface rust on it and really just needed to be stripped, painted, or stripped, primed, and repainted. And it's looking a lot better now. Naturally, the side stand led to the center stand, which was also in bad shape, much worse shape. In fact, if you've ever doubted that the center stand is the hardest working part on your bike, you should take a look at it sometime. I think I've mentioned before that this bike has less than 3,000 miles on it, even though it's almost 40 years old. But this center stand, there are parts of it that look like it must have been dragging on the pavement for at least half of those miles. Pitting, corrosion, flaking. What you'd expect after 40 years, but not necessarily after less than 3,000 miles. Go figure. Anyway, it's I stripped it, primed it, repainted it. It's not perfect, but it looks a lot better. And cleaned up the bearings. We'll re-grease these and remount the center stand. And with that, I think I'll feel like I'm moving again on the project. So a lot of it's psychological, but hey, it all has to be done anyway. Some of the parts you'll be fixing won't give you much to show because they're hidden, like this little gem. Chafing dish, anyone? Now it's actually the air filter holder and basically the skeleton of the air filter. It's pretty intricate when you think about it, but they don't make them like they used to. The foam that makes up the guts of the filter had completely disintegrated on this. Required a lot of cleanup, and it had basically turned to kind of like dust, but a really sticky, you know what foam looks like when it disintegrates. Which reminds me, if you're working on one of these bikes, and so often, I mean, I'm the same way, you just want to get it running, right? But definitely check the air filter before you start running the bike, because this thing had completely fallen apart, and if the bike had ingested it, it just wouldn't have been pretty. So definitely clean this up, get a new filter, and then we'll try running the bike. There's always a catch. Before you install the air filter, you have to soak it in oil, which sounds really pleasant. Now, according to the manual, you can either use special air filter oil or clean engine oil. And I'm thinking, thank goodness, because what is special air filter oil? I've seen it out there in little spray cans for 20, 30 bucks, and I'm thinking, really? Anyway, clean engine oil, though, everyone has that around. It might as well be free. My car takes 4.2 quarts, so the extra 0.8 are going to sit around in the garage doing nothing for years. So, found a home for the old oil. Anyway, I find the best way to do this is to take a resealable plastic bag and just stick the filter in it. Make sure it's big enough, but just big enough. And then you just pour as much oil in there as you need, but not too much. And that should be about right. We'll see how right it is. Anyway, if you're into cooking, You might have used a similar method to marinate meat. As you're sealing the bag, just squeeze the excess air out carefully without getting oil all over yourself. And then just let that oil run around, let it flow, and kind of work it in. It's, oh gosh, so much neater this way. Here we go. This is the fun part, getting the filter into the holder. Now, you can see it's hollowed out on the inside. Basically a three, it's open on one side. I'm not going to say whether you call this a three-sided or a five-sided thing. So you slip it over, obviously slip it over this part. Fits together pretty well so far. There's a bit of a lip here that you can tuck the foam into. There you go, you just kind of tuck it in as you go around. It stays, it's not hard. It's not one of those things that keeps popping out. You get all the way around, then you find it's popped out on the other side. It so far hasn't made a fool of me. Here's the top. Got one screw here. Now as you squeeze it together too, while tightening these fasteners here, you might get some more drips. But it's fine. This might want to pop out, just make sure it's all tucked in. I don't know, working on bikes can be so nasty. Anyway, that's done. I'm going to set this aside in a spot where it won't do any damage. Wipe my hands off, and I'm going to have to go wash up. Thanks for watching.